Now at this point I'm going to physically install the drives in the chassis. So let's move the cables out of the way and get the case ready for the drive installation. Now to install the drives, you have to remove the front panel from this case. Now on this one, you basically grab from the bottom and pull, and then pry the rest of the assembly out. It's merely, press fit on these attachment points. I'm going to set this off to the side. Now I'm ready to install the CD-ROM drive. In this case, I've got the knockout already made in the front of the case. You'll notice that there are 2 additional knockout plates for 5 1/4 inch drives here. If you were installing more drives, you simply hit these with a hammer or grab them with your hand and bend them and pry these off. Same for the 3 1/2 inch drives down here. Well, I'm only going to install one 5 1/4 inch drive here. So I'm going to take the drive and slide it through the front of the chassis, back until the screw holes line up. And I'm going to get my screws and install them. Okay, now the CD-ROM drive is installed. Next I'm going to install the floppy drive. Got the drive right here. That merely slides to the front of the chassis right in this position. And line up the holes. And then install the screws, same as the CD-ROM drive. And now the floppy drive is installed. Next I'm going to install the hard drive. Got the hard drive right here. Now this will install from the inside as opposed to the way the other drives worked. I'm going to slide it along the bottom here until I can get the screw holes to line up. And now I'll install the screws. Now one issue with hard drives is you want to make sure that the screws you're using are not too long. If you use a screw that's too long and it runs into the side of the frame, past the frame, and hits the actual head disc assembly, you can damage the drive. So make sure that the screws you're using are of the proper length. If you're unsure, check the documentation that comes with the hard drive. It should tell you. Or you could do a trial fit with the screws. Okay, now the hard drive is installed, and at this point we can cable all of the drives. Now I already talked about the 2 ATA cables. We also have a floppy cable that goes with the system here. Now if you look at these floppy cables, you'll see there's a twist. The connector that follows that twist is the one you plug into the drive. So we're going to plug this end into the motherboard and this end into the drive itself. Now for this I'm going to turn the system on its side. Have a little bit better access this way. And you can see the actual connectors on the motherboard for the 2 ATA ports as well as the floppy drive. The 2 ATA connectors are 40-pin and the floppy drive is a smaller 34-pin connector. So I'm going to install the 2 ATA cables first. Blue connectors go to the motherboard. Now, in looking at the board here, the primary ATA or IDE is the black one, and the white one is the secondary. So, You want to observe the pin 1 orientation. That is, the red stripe on the cable goes towards pin 1. And this being the primary, I'm going to plug this one into the hard drive right here. Now, as far as on the drive is concerned, pin 1 is almost always oriented towards the power connector on the drive. So now that cable is installed. Next, I'm going to cable the CD-ROM drive. That's going to go in the secondary ATA. And then the master connector will go to the drive. Again, orienting pin 1 towards the power connector. Okay, and then finally the floppy cable. The last connector here. And pin 1 oriented towards the power connector on the floppy drive. Okay. At that point, we have our drives cabled. Now, in some cases, you might want to take these cables and kind of bundle them up or route them so that they don't interfere with any airflow in the system. If you're using the proper, 18-inch cables, usually they're not going to be very long, and you're not going to have a lot of extra cabling in the system to worry about. So at that point, we can now install the power supply.